How you doing? Salute. BC's got a fresh cup of coffee, so I'm doing alright. Grab your bevies, cause this is a special upload. It's not often we get to do this. NXT and AEW. A double review, head to head, and we do it now. And as I said in that cold open teaser, this is a very special upload. It's not often I'm able to do NXT or AEW even separately. So to be able to do these two shows together in the same upload, this is like a it's like an amplified review. And we're going to start with NXT because they started the night off 8 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, to 10. And then AEW came in at 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So for one full hour, they did go head to head. And both companies were bringing their arsenal, right? If anybody tries to sell you that they were just paying attention to themselves, that ratings don't matter, Tony Khan, he brought what was called Title Tuesday to the forefront. So that's what he themed his event last night, Title Tuesday. WWE sent all their main roster talents over to NXT. Maybe not all, but a ton. Off the top of my dome piece, you had Randy Orton, Jey Uso, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Waller, Theory. A host of main roster talent was sent over to NXT to make sure that this second episode on CW, head-to-head with Tony Khan's AEW, that it went off without a hitch and that they won in the ratings. If they did or not, that remains to be seen. We'll see when the numbers come out later this afternoon. But both shows bringing their full arsenal. I can't tell you that Title Tuesday felt like Title Tuesday. I can't tell you that every match had a championship on the line or that it felt like a Saturday night's main event. I also can't tell you that even with all the main roster talents flooding NXT, that this was one of the best NXT shows I've ever seen. I can't tell you any of those things because I'd be lying. That's not what we're going to do on this channel. So again, we are going to start with NXT because they started 8 to 10. AEW came in 9 to 11, so it's only fitting we do AEW after NXT's review. For those that don't know, AEW was booted from their Wednesday time slot due to the MLB playoffs. My New York Yankees are finally back in the playoffs. We're going to be taking on the Royals in Game 3. The Royals took Game 2 in New York. We should not have let that go, but we had no offense, and our pitching was in the dumps as well. Can't say that. Our bullpen was good. Carlos Rodon, he should have gotten Das Boot after the first inning, because that was his only good inning. So anyway, Royals tied it up. Game 3 is tonight, and the Yankees and the Royals booted AEW Dynamite to Tuesday night. Tony Khan was smart, though. He didn't want to do a full 2-hour head-to-head. He never really wins in those competitions because WWE stacks the deck with all the main roster, and it's just unfair. They have too much name recognition. Casual fans will easily flock to WWE before AEW. So Tony Khan, he pushed it back an hour. We'll see how that works in the numbers. All right, so let's do this. NXT first. We started with Trick Williams and Jey Uso. You're thinking, BC, what do you mean Jey Uso, man? Yes, that's what they did, man. Jey Uso comes out. Right? I wanted to hear from Trick Williams. You know, I want to hear this whole Ethan Page thing. What's next for Trick Williams, his trajectory. And this was just to pop the crowd, pull in some casuals, maybe in the numbers, watching on the CW. Nothing of substance at all, guys. Jey Uso, Trick Williams. They cut a promo together. Nothing of relevance was said. The crowd just chants for like it seemed an eternity. Whoop that trick. Yeet. Whoop that trick. Yeet. Whoop that trick. Now, it did catch on, right? Even Trick was kind of like, all right, I'm digging that, right? Jey Uso's leading the charge. Even BC for a second goes, oh boy. That actually goes, which means we're going to hear that nonstop. Right? HHH and HBK, they're going to get together and go, oh, we got something with Trick and Jey Uso. Well, you have something with Jay and Jimmy, too. That doesn't mean anything right now, right? They're not going to get together anytime soon, it doesn't look like. with Jey Uso in the IC chain. Unless Jey drops that title back to Braun Breaker, Jimmy is back. Maybe you would see Jimmy and Jey reunite in the near future. Maybe Survivor Series War Games. Anyway, for now, Jimmy's on the side. Jey Uso, Trick Williams, man. I don't know. This didn't do anything. You guys know what BC is looking for on these shows. I'm looking for that substance. I'm looking for that story to captivate me, that I can grab onto, that we can take a fun ride on. The trajectory, the journey, right, is exciting. What is Trick doing? Trick is dancing with Jey Uso. That's what he's doing. Then we went on to, this was probably the best part of the night, but best matchup for sure for BC. Believe it or not, and it's a schmaz. I know, listen to this. So check this out. Kalani Jordan, who I just think the world of. This is the future. Kalani Jordan is the future. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. She's so damn good. When she first arrived on the scene, some people were going, the next Sasha Banks. And I just laughed. I'm like, there's never going to be another Sasha Banks, but, be the first Kalani Jordan. But after seeing so much of Kalani, I see the similarity. She just gets this, and she's so naturally good at it. That when Kalani's in there, it's hard to have a bad match. Like the person she's in there with, she'd have to be really bad for the match to be bad. So Kalani Jordan is in there with more main roster talent. You guys are going to catch the theme of this NXT, right? We started with Jey Uso giving the rub over to Trick. Well, this was Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill giving that little rub to Kalani. All three of these ladies, Kalani Jordan, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, in a 6-woman tag with Fatal Influence. Jasmine Nix, Fallon Henley, JC Jane. Kalani would end up pinning Jasmine Nix via split-legged moonsault. And that's only after Jade and Bianca destroyed her first. And let me tell you, man, Jade and Bianca were on their game. This is first and foremost, this was probably the best 6-woman tag match I've seen in a very long time. So let me just get that out of the way. One of the best, if not the best 6-woman tag I have seen in a very long time last night in this matchup. On top of that, every one of these ladies brought it. They hit their marks. They rocked it out. I don't remember a moment where I was like, ooh, dragon, or hesitation, ooh, botch. Nothing. This whole match, every one of these ladies were clicking. And it kind of brought me back to a night earlier, right? Monday Night Raw with the 10-woman tag. 10 ladies were only given basically 5 minutes. It was an 8-minute match, 3 minutes in commercial. They were left with 5 minutes of television time. And in those 5 minutes, all 10 ladies absolutely crushed it. And the ladies last night carried that torch. So pretty cool to see. As I said, Kalani is the future. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it for BC. As much pro wrestling as I have watched and dissected and critiqued over the past decades, Kalani Jordan is the future. Or at least that's what I used to say. Maybe I should start saying Kalani Jordan is the now. On top of that, this is the best match that Jade and Bianca have had together. That's what I was getting at a minute ago. This was the best match that Jade and Bianca have wrestled together as a team. It was from top to bottom their most consistent. It looked like they were rocking the most confidence. They just had this self-esteem last night where there was zero doubt in what they were doing. Jade Cargill went in there and looked like a top-tier professional wrestler. And as much as I put Jade on a pedestal, as much as I see star value in Jade because she is a bona fide superstar, I can't say I've seen that breakout performance yet from Jade. Last night, I saw it. Bianca was Bianca, one of the best in the industry. And Kalani just added that cherry on top. Damn! These three ladies worked really well together, and because of that, I wouldn't doubt if you see them in the future. I don't like schmazes, but if I ever see these three in a 6-woman tag again, I'm at least not going to roll my eyes back. Now, as for Fatal Influence, Jasmine Nix has a very unique blend of offense. Her baseball slide to take the legs out of her opponent, freaking beautiful, man. I don't know many females, many wrestlers, period, including the dudes, that make it look that flawless and do it so well. On top of that, she has the, what is it? What does she call that? Did I put it in the notes? What do you call the Knicks kick? I hope I'm getting that right. The Knicks kick. That is nasty, man. I mean, I understand the opponent has to be in the right position and sell it beautifully. So it takes two to tango with a finisher like that. But that Knicks kick, whoa. I'm telling you, man. This Jasmine Nix made me look twice at her talents last night. As for Fatal Influence, upon further look at their win-loss column, it doesn't look like the company has anything planned for them, right? They win a few matches in a row, they lose a few matches in a row, and when you're 50-50 booked like that, you're not gaining any traction with the audience at hand, the audience watching at home, and you're certainly not gaining traction with the company itself. And I know, they're the ones booking them like that. But when they book them so poorly or 50-50, and there's no real reaction, or there's no path to the next level, the company starts to book you even more poorly, not even realizing that they're the ones that started booking you so poorly. I hope that makes sense. So it's like a vicious cycle. So that's why it's very important, especially upon like debuts or when like a faction just forms. It's very important you have a long-term plan, like a couple two-tree storylines and feuds set up for them in advance. It's the same reason why Street Profits and Bobby Lashley never worked, and Karrion Kross's current group is just not working. It's also the reason that Toxic Attraction did work, and why Fatal Influence is currently in flux, fatal flux. So we wish them the best, but they did their role beautifully in this matchup. Everybody hit their marks, like I said, all these ladies. There has to be the losers, obviously. This was a time where the heels had to lose. But you just hope that Fatal Influence's booking does pick up so that fans, especially like casual fans, they can latch on to them, right? When they come through that curtain, a casual fan can go, I got to put the remote down, see what this Fatal Influence is about. Because let me tell you, Kalani Jordan, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, they're already made. Or at least Kalani Jordan is in the process of. So then we went into, and this is a perfect example actually, this next segment leads into what I was just talking about. With this group, Fatal Influence, supposed to be like this dominant group in NXT for the ladies. But the very next segment, they had two ladies feel like they're way more dominant than those three ladies. I'm talking Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. So Roxanne Perez is out next for an in-ring promo. She brings out Cora Jade. Cora says, and I quote, "The women you used to know was trying to make it in NXT. The women you see now, I'm here to make NXT." Julia then hits the top of the ramp, and she's not alone. Stephanie Vacure hits the ring with Julia, man. It was wild to see these two together. The faces clear the heels out of the ring. The NXT title, Roxanne Perez. Roxy left that title in the ring. So Julia and Stephanie look at that title. They each bend down to pick it up. Each picks up a side of the title and raises it, both reluctant to let the other side go. So Stephanie and Julia each have a side of that NXT Women's Championship. They look at the title, they look at each other, and then they look at Roxanne Perez, Roxy, and Cora Jade in the aisleway, because they were pretty much on their asses, cleared from the faces. And you just see that visual of Stephanie Vacure, Julia holding that NXT Championship, both with business on their face. Man, at a time, man, Julia and Stephanie in the same ring. What a wild time in pro wrestling. For the ladies, anyway. The possibilities, if you're creative and if you know enough about Stephanie Vacure and if you know enough about Julia and you just think of the possibilities with like Roxanne Perez, Roxy, man, if you're creative, the possibilities, right? I started to think of 100 scenarios. I started writing all of 2025 with those three ladies alone. So it was wild, man. Stephanie Vacure, that's her real debut to BC, right? Standing in the middle of that ring, getting the adulation from that crowd. A lot of those fans probably don't know much about Stephanie, but they know this is a big star. They know this is a huge deal, and they knew she was right in front of them. So that's why it was a big moment, even for the fans that didn't know much about her. That was a big woman segment. So this was back-to-back with that 6-woman tag, and then this storyline setting up with Roxy, Cora Jade, Julia, Stephanie, and that'll progress right through Halloween Havoc, which is in a couple weeks for NXT as well. And then we ended hour number 1 with the NXT North American title rematch. This was Tony D, the challenger versus champion Obafemi. And that's right, guys. There is a new North American champion. His name is Tony D. He pins Oba to become the new North American champion. And by the way, that was on a roll-up. Now, they could have easily done this with some power bombs or whatever, right? Oba was like power bomb through the commentary table outside. Back inside, I think he took another power bomb, something like that. And they decided to have Oba kick out. And then moments later, Tony D just rolls him up. This big dude. I don't know if you've ever seen Obafemi. Maybe you don't watch NXT. You're just listening to BC's review. I know a lot of you guys do that. Salute. Thank you for trusting BC to be your number one source in reviews. I truly appreciate that. But if you didn't see it, or if you don't know much about Obafemi, he is a monster of a dude. To just roll him up, not realistic. So I don't like the finish, but Tony D getting the championship, the story kind of called for that. I don't know if I would do that on a regular NXT show, but the story did call for that. We've seen these two in the ring before. We've seen them on PLEs. We've seen Obafemi overcome the odds. Are they odds? I mean, I think everybody thought Oba was going to win. Anyway, we've seen Oba defeat Tony D, hoist up that title, and Tony D, storyline-wise, kind of went on a whole whirlwind of questioning himself, right? That's why the story called for it. Tony D, for the last several weeks, was doubting himself, almost like, can I even be the leader of this fam? So to have that moment, it just reinstilled everything that made Tony D so special. And now he found that out. He refound that last night. Hopefully that makes sense. So it was a big moment storyline-wise, not just the fact that there was a new champion crowned. Congratulations to Tony D. How you doing? And something tells me Obafemi is going to be just fine. This dude's got a bright future, obviously. Axiom and Nathan Frazier then defeat Waller in Theory to, I believe that was a title match, correct? It was more titled Tuesday on NXT, it felt like. But Axiom and Nathan Frazier defeat Waller in Theory, more main roster talent. In case the casuals are switching through, they're going to put the remote down for the CW. That's what they're hoping anyway. And this was into hour number 2, by the way, at this point. So Waller and Theory, these dudes can't even catch a break on Tuesday nights. I don't know, man. Waller and Theory. I think they were just put together to be like the Barry Horowitz and Brooklyn Brawler of today's WWE. I don't know if there's older fans that remember Barry Horowitz and Brooklyn Brawler, but if you put them in a team, you basically got Waller and Theory. Hey, thanks for showing up to Tuesday nights. You can go back to, I don't even know where they are. Are they Friday Night Smack? That's how irrelevant Waller and Theory have become. Anyway, thanks for stopping by Tuesday nights. Even little Axiom and Nathan Frazier defeated these dudes. Then we went to Sexy Red's concert being canceled by All Ego, Ethan Page. I thought that was pretty funny. Man, Sexy Red, more power to her. Much love. She seems like a cool gal. It sounds like she's already successful. I wish her a tremendous amount of more success. I'm not familiar with her music or her in general. From what I've seen, it's not my cup of coffee, but again, I wish her the best of success. And if it is your cup of coffee, man, more Sexy Red for sure. I don't know what was happening. Her music was playing. She was lip syncing to the music. It was off. I don't know, man. Again, it's not BC's cup of coffee, but it's what it is, man. You know, they're not just performing for BC. So if you were loving it, salute. All Ego is not. All Ego comes out. He put a kibosh to that. He put the halt to it, right? He stopped it. He said this concert is canceled. This brought out Javon Evans. This was just to set up Evans' main event match with Randy Orton, by the way. Which not much to talk about, so let's just jump into it so we can get to AEW. Randy Orton defeats Javon Evans via RKO pinfall. Orton sold heavy for this kid. Heavy, because it's what he's there for. He wants to prop up the NXT kids. So he sold heavy for this kid. BC was thinking, no. Just no. It's not realistic, man. All of the heavyweight battles that Orton has been in. Think about everything. With HHH so many times, and the John Cenas, everybody you can think of. Batistas, Flairs, HBKs. Javon Evans is taking this dude to the limit. Stop. Much respect to Javon Evans, by the way. Bright future. Kid's so much skill, so much talent. In fact, they missed a really good opportunity. When Javon hit that, what was it, like a springboard RKO? So he's leaping like 100 feet in the air, slight exaggeration, off that top turnbuckle. And he goes into like an RKO on Randy Orton. That was the perfect time to have Randy hit it, right? Just tell Javon you got to tilt a little bit more frontwards. You know, I know you don't usually do that, but tilt a little more and then boom. Instead, Randy just like stood him up, hits an RKO as if he's hitting it on the Big Show or Kane, right? Freaking Great Khali. Omos. This is Javon Evans, man. He can do some amazing shit. He can fly 100 feet in the air, it seems. Hit the RKO. I was really looking forward to the creative way that they hit the RKO last night, because we all knew that was going to be the finish. It wasn't that creative. Stood him up, hit it. And then afterwards, mutual respect, right? Randy's giving you the approval. And Javon Evans was made last night. Apparently. I don't know, man. I don't know how many people actually watched the show, so I don't know if he was made or not. But Randy was there, by the way, in case you're wondering. Excuse me. Randy was there because it was St. Louis. Same as Sexy Red, right? I think Sexy Red was St. Louis as well. Anyway, that was NXT. Listen, was it one of the best NXTs I've ever seen? Not even close, right? With all that main roster talent, it almost didn't even feel like you were watching NXT. You know, they just flooded it like they always do when they're going up against AEW. And on the flip side, AEW, they had to theme their event, right? Because they're off their normal night and they're going against NXT. So what they always do is they theme it. This is going to be Title Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. And we see the Lego movie. Everything is awesome. Taco Tuesday. This was AEW's Taco Tuesday, Title Tuesday. Real quick, my note. Was it Title Tuesday, though? There was a match for the number one contendership for a title for the ladies, because Britt Baker had to back out of that too. So I remember that. There was the double title match by Mercedes. Danielson and Wheeler, Pac, and Claudio. That wasn't a title match though, right? No, because that's 2/3 of the trios champions, the heels. Jay White had a squash. Anyway, let's talk AEW 10/8/24. And at this point, too, by the way, when AEW started, this was the 9 p.m. Eastern hour, so they were up against NXT for their first hour. When they started, NXT was beginning their second and final hour. So everything we're about to go over, this was actually head-to-head with NXT. Before we even went to the ring for the first segment, Mox and Bryan Danielson traded video packages. Very well done, by the way. Setting up to Danielson's main event tag match later in the night against Claudio. It would be him and Wheeler versus Claudio in that bastard pack. And Jeff Jarrett was on commentary. So that's some side business before we got to the first segment. The first segment in the ring goes to Darby Allin. He's middle of the ring. He's calling out Brody King. King answers the call, and Darby cuts a very personal promo on how the two would stay up all night at crackhead motels, talking about how one day they're going to make it big in the industry, and how Brody fell off and had a family, and it was Darby Allin out of the two, right? If you look at them, you're thinking Brody's going to make it, but it was actually Darby Allin that went on to make it. But it was also Darby that brought Brody into AEW. And now all of a sudden, you want my spot, says Darby to Brody. Brody doesn't deny that. Brody says, yeah, I want what you got. The difference is, between me and you, the difference is you got a death wish, I value mine. So this leads Darby to say, well, then put me out of my misery then, right? Like kept egging him on, poking at him, basically, right? Because you said he's got a death wish, so he says, end that misery then, finish him off. Brody doesn't want to do that at first. Darby smacks him across the mug. This plants Darby on his ass. Brody goes for the chokehold. he is smashed in the face with a rock. Or at least that's what it looked like. I didn't go back and watch or listen to the commentary, but it looked like Darby had a rock and he smashed it in the face of Brody. Brody is bloodied. Security officials are breaking them up. And that's your first segment. So to say wild, yeah, that would be an understatement. And they're really bumping up this Darby and Brody. I love the promo from Darby Allin, man. I mean, if you're going to ignite this and you have a short amount of time to do such, what Darby did last night, that's the way to do it. You really enlighten a lot of fans on how close they were, because a lot of fans didn't know. BC didn't even know that they were that tight, that they were up all night at the motels talking about how they have to make it in this business and one day they're going to do it, right? And then one day Brody's just like, dude, I got to start the family. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. And Darby just stayed the course. And when Darby made it big, he didn't forget about who he got there with, or the journey anyway. And he brought Brody along with him. And now Brody wants to take him out when he brought him in. I just love that type of stuff, right? It's simplistic, but it works. And it only works when it's done with the right people at the right time. So I do like that first segment. Was it enough to captivate the audience? Put that remote down. Don't switch over to NXT. Again, the numbers will tell us later this afternoon. We then went into an interesting backstage segment. Very interesting. I'm a big Jake Roberts fan. You guys know that. So Renee Paquette is back there, and she's with Jake Roberts and Don Callas. And Roberts and Callas announced that they've made the first ever AEW Managers Talent Exchange. Callas gets Lance Archer, and after Hologram defeated Commander in the next matchup, we find out that Roberts has acquired Roosh, Beast Mortis, and Jalistico. So, awkward. I don't necessarily see them. Maybe Roosh with Jake Roberts, but Beast and Drell, I don't know. But it's, Lance Archer fits with Jake Roberts. I don't think the booking was ever there, though. Unfortunately, you could have done a lot more with Jake Roberts and Archer. Do I think Archer is going to go further with Callas? Yes, because I think the booking is going to support them more. But it's going to the real question mark here is, how are these three individuals going to work with, if they are indeed all three with Jake, how are they going to work with Roberts? And will they receive better booking than Lance got with Jake? So I got my hesitations and reservations on this, but it could work. There definitely needed to be a shakeup. I do agree with that. And for Lance Archer, I think he makes out the real winner here. Then we go to Dan Garcia finally makes his announcement. WWE or AEW? He told the world last night in the middle of the ring live. And I don't know if there was ever that much interest from WWE, right? There's conflicting reports. Some reports are saying, no, they talked to him. Some reports are saying an offer wasn't even made. But Dan Garcia announces that he is indeed staying in AEW. He says, this is a quote, "The Daniel Garcia that's staying in AEW is not the same Daniel Garcia that's been little broed in the back, that cries and complains when he loses." And then he put the locker room on notice. He says the new Dan Garcia starts with gold around his waist. Puts the whole locker room on notice. Listen, Dan Garcia, I can't say that he's grown on me over time. Not yet anyway. But I love his development from where he began to where he is now. He is still, to BC, he is still so damn small. He's got to hit that weight room. Even Ricochet. If Ricochet's beating like a top tier big heavyweight, I can believe that. Dan Garcia is just so small, man, that I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It does feel like they are going a different direction with him. He is more serious. He is going to be more badass. So can he pull it off with his weight and stature? That remains to be seen. I'm definitely going to give it a second look. I'm definitely going to be rooting for the dude, because a better Dan Garcia, better booking for him means better storylines, a better AEW product. So absolutely, I'm on board with it. I just hope he stays dedicated to all the other things you have to kind of check off the boxes, right? Just hit that weight room, just get stronger for your own good, yes, but also the people you're in the ring with, right? You want to be as strong as possible. because you're in there with other people's careers and lives at stake, right? You're going to be picking them up and dropping them on their dome pieces. So you do want to hit that weight room and just you're a pro wrestler, man. You know, you're not a deli clerk at the local market, right? You're not flipping the burgers. You're not stocking the shelves. You're not selling cars. You're a professional wrestler who are lifting other human beings up for a living. You know, just if he can just get a little bigger, man, BC can go like, I'm not going to look at him obviously like Stone Cold Steve Austin, what? But I can at least go, yeah, Dan Garcia's going in there with a Luchasaurus, and he's going to come out victorious. Okay, maybe that's not the biggest. Right, okay, well, Keith Lee, right? Has anybody seen Keith Lee? is he still on the milk carton? Is Keith Lee still missing? But if Keith Lee's in there with Dan Garcia, I don't know, man. Are you realistically saying? I mean, this is Keith Lee, a dude who's gone to war with friggin' what was his name? Dijak. Anybody seen Dijak either, man? If you told me that just a couple years later, after they had those epic wars, if you told me that Keith Lee and Dijak are basically irrelevant in the pro wrestling world, I just wouldn't believe it. I thought they would be on top of the wrestling world by 2024. I know Keith Lee has had some medical issues too, by the way. We wish him the best. Dijak got fired from WWE. Or they let his contract run out when they led him to believe they were re-signing him. I don't know, man. I'm still in flux with this Dan Garcia. I've always been in flux. I've never understood Dan Garcia. Like, with his size and stature, how it's like watching James Ellsworth ascend to the top of pro wrestling. You're not believing that. So it's going to take more than dance moves for sure, in a new attitude. But we're on board, man. I like Dan Garcia. I really do. I hope the best for him, and we'll see how this next chapter in AEW evolves for him, because he is staying in AEW. The ladies were next up, man. This was supposed to be Britt Baker versus Willow, but Britt Baker did not make the town. Britt Baker was under the weather from what Tony Khan announced earlier in the afternoon, so he announced a fatal four-way, more like a 5 though, because who was that? Harley Quinn was in there the whole match? Did they end up making that 5? I don't know. She was in there the whole match. But from what I was told, it was a fatal four-way. Number one contendership for the AEW Women's Championship. Baker, again, under the weather. So this was Willow versus Saraya versus Nyla Rose versus Jamie Hayter. Willow ultimately wins, and post-match at the top of the ramp is taken out by Mariah May. And I mean a badass, gnarly headbutt, guys. And Willow sold it like she was already out on her feet and then collapsed. And then afterwards, Mariah May took the championship and started slinging it into the back and shoulder of Willow. So pretty good top of the ramp beating by Mariah May. I just wish when she was slinging that title into the back and shoulder of Willow, I wish she laid into it a little more. It wasn't as bad as like Alexa and Bayley. Remember, was it Extreme Rules kendo stick match? And they were just literally it was love taps. It wasn't that bad, but lay into it a little more. Willow can take that. So again, badass headbutt and then subsequent shots to the back with the AEW Championship. But it is going to be Willow. I think that was always the plan, though, right? Maybe Baker didn't like that plan, and that's why she didn't make the town. But it sounded like Tony was legit when he was saying she was under the weather. So if that is the real deal and Britt Baker is under the weather, we wish her the best, obviously, speedy recovery. If Baker is just still not happy totally in AEW, that's another story and problem that Tony Khan has. So Willow, salute, going for the title. Does Willow beat Mariah? I don't know if I'm going that far. Jay White then wins a quick squash over Cody. Not Cody Rhodes, relax. Cody Chun. This was just a jobber match. Jay White, quick squash. Cody Chun looking up at the lights via pinfall. Post-match, Jay White lays down the challenge to Hangman Page for Saturday night's Wrestle Dream. So you talk about a quick turnaround. Moments later, in the very next segment, I believe, Tony Schiavone says that we do have breaking news. Tony Khan has made it official. Jay White versus Hangman Page. The next match was one of those matchups that I was looking forward to the most in this show. That was the double title match, AEW TBS Championship and the NJPW Strong title. Mercedes Moné holding both titles, facing the challenger, Emi Sakura. This was a slow start, but it picked up in the second half. The first half of this match, it just looked like they weren't connecting. They were not in sync. They were not in gel with one another. And then the second half progressed beautifully. It was like they were working together all of this past year, twice on Sunday. So love the progression. They got it back on track. Emi would end up tapping out to Moné's statement submission. Right call. Absolutely, because there's no way Emi's showing up in the middle of a Dynamite that's not even on their regular night and time slot. No way that Moné is losing both titles in that fashion. So, in tapping out to the statement, there's no shame in that at all. Emi does not lose any stock or any value. Post-match, Chris Statlander chases the heels off, and that's the segment. Guys, if you're new to the channel, this channel was based on two individuals, really. There was two superstars, two wrestlers that really captivated BC and really was the nucleus of forming the channel and making content roughly 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was. And that was Bray Wyatt and Sasha Banks. So I put them on pedestals. Trust me when I say that. My veteran subscribers will tell you that, especially channel members. But Mercedes Moné in AEW, I love. First, let me tell you what I love. The fact that Tony Khan sees the value in her and treats her with that respect and puts her on that pedestal, right? Gives her a big contract. While everybody else is crying about that, I love that. She should have got that in WWE. I love the fact that she wins her matches and losses are at a premium, if ever. In fact, I don't think she has yet in AEW. She holds 2 titles already. I love all of that. Why everybody else is bitching and complaining and crying about that because they don't like Sasha, they don't like Mercedes. BC loves that. Tony puts that stock in her. He sees the value. The problem is Moné needs to feel bigger. You could put 10 titles on her. I don't feel like she's being put in positions where people are going, I have to watch what Mercedes is doing. And she's too damn good. And we've seen in WWE for years, she can put storylines on her back. She doesn't need a Charlie Flair to do that with. She doesn't need a Becky Lynch or a Bayley to do that with. She can do that with Peyton Royce. They have to make Moné feel more special, bigger. BC, what more can they do, man? She's got 2 titles already. I know, but you can have 100 champions. I always say this, man. There are some feuds in wrestling, you'll notice this. I've watched for decades with a keen eye. Some of the best feuds, a lot of times they don't even have a title attached to them. Some of the best stories, some of the things you're interested the most in, a lot of times you're going to find in pro wrestling, they don't even have a title attached to them, man. Most of the time, Undertaker, growing up, those first 10 years of Undertaker up front, a title was never even in the scenario. If you get away from like Tuesday in Texas and that Survivor Series with him and Hogan in the title, you get away from that, man. Undertaker was never really in a title picture till later on, but he was always involved in the things you needed to see. Recently, man, Punk and Drew is going to be feud of the year more than likely, up there with Swerve and Hangman. CM Punk and Drew had no championship. They were fighting over a bracelet, man. A bracelet. It's going to be feud of the year. So you can put all the titles in the world, and I'm glad they are on Mercedes, because she is, to BC anyway, one of, if not the best female wrestler on the planet. But if she's not attached to anything special, if you're not putting her in storylines that captivate people, if she's not in feuds that are really intriguing the fan base, if she's not making you put down that remote and go, oh, I gotta watch this Mercedes feud or this Mercedes segment because this has been heating up. If people aren't doing that, man, it is a disservice, an injustice to giving Mercedes all this money and putting her on the show. Then why did you even bring her in? You can't just bring her in to have her have good wrestling matches and throw championships on her. Pro wrestling is more than that. Storylines, and it's about those feuds that take us outside the box and bring us all on a ride that takes us to the next level. Mercedes was supposed to be that gal for the women's division. They got to find a way to make her such. I hope that makes sense, man. Mercedes, I put her on a pedestal higher than anybody else, so my critiques are going to be a little more vivid, but it's the most honest. Monae needs to feel bigger. It's up to Tony Khan and AEW to make her do just that. Up next was the best part of the show for BC, I thought anyway. This was Will Osprey in the ring with Tony Schiavone. Osprey calls out Don Callas. Callas to the ring. Osprey demands answers. Did he send Takeshita to attack him last week? Callas doesn't want to answer at first. Osprey keeps cutting him off, demanding the answer. Ultimately, Callas does admit, yes, he did, but only because Osprey wouldn't listen. And basically, Callas had to remind him who the leader of this whole thing is. But he did admit it. So Osprey says, I should have listened to everybody else when they said what a scumbag you are. He says, we're through to Callas. So Callas smacks Osprey across his face. Osprey goes after Callas, but Takeshita attacks. Callas wants Kyle Fletcher, good buddy of Osprey. He puts a screwdriver in Fletcher's hand and wants him to drive it into the dome piece of Osprey. Fletcher is reluctant to do that. Takeshi's trying to get him to do the same thing. He leaves the ring in defiance of Callas's orders. Ricochet is the one who comes out, I believe, right? Ricochet comes out. And he's finally able to fend off the heels, Callas and Takeshita, because Fletcher had already taken off at that point. But he didn't actually help Osprey either, but he at least didn't put the screwdriver in his dome piece, so I guess we'll call that a wash. Ricochet shows up, and moments later, the segment is over. That's another thing. Ricochet just got there. He just comes out for a quick 15-second save, and we go to the next video package backstage. That's not going to get Ricochet to the next platform. I'm telling you right now. I mean, the response and everything. Ricochet seemed like another spoke on the wheel when he came out. So anyway, that sets up Wrestle Dream as well. And then we go into the main event tag match. Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta versus that damn bastard Pac and Claudio. Danielson to the ring with Final Countdown blasting throughout the arena. That never gets old, makes it feel like a big fight feel. And it's Danielson. I mean, he's one of those rare wrestlers that no matter what he's doing, who he's wrestling, he could be cutting it's special. You got to put down that remote. It's Bryan Danielson. It's what captivated us all in WWE and still to this day in AEW, and it's a damn shame. And I know a lot of this was his call, but he should have been a multi-time world champion already. He's too good. He's too good, and no matter how much he tries to deny himself with a championship, we're not buying it. He's too damn good. He's too special. So it's just really cool to see him down there, Final Countdown blasting. Danielson taps out the bastard for the W. Post-match, Danielson and Mox battle to the back, while Marina Shafir stays at ringside, beating the crap out of Wheeler Yuta, and I mean like driving knees into his gut. I mean, she just starts beating the wheels off of Wheeler. Marina Shafir was not playing last night. She tosses him back in the ring where Claudio grabs a hammer and continuously jams it into the gut of Wheeler Yuta. So I don't know what it was, man, but the toolbox was getting a lot of love last night. The screwdriver that Callas wanted Fletcher to hit Osprey with, that did not get used, but the hammer did get used, Claudio to Yuta. Danielson and Mox would fight back to the ring, where Danielson would be able to get in the ring, clear the heels out. Danielson takes out Bastard and Claudio, and Marina Shafir obviously goes with the heels. So the night ends with Danielson leading the crowd in a yes chant while Final Countdown sounds off. And we all know, no matter what happens in the near future, we know that Danielson's wrestling days are kind of numbered. So it is still symbolic. It's still meaningful. It's impactful to hear that song play and know that Danielson, he's finally actually thinking about retirement now, right? He knows now, like, that tunnel, it's kind of closing in a little bit wrestling-wise, in-ring performer status, and it's going to be a sad day when that happens. So it was all symbolic. I loved it. That was the first time I've really seen Bryan Danielson embrace that yes chant since he's been in AEW, right? He's kind of, for the most part, tried to keep that in WWE. There's been times where he's done it. Last night was the first time where he was really leading the charge and really feeling it. I think he's treating this like his final world tour. Maybe just not announcing it like John Cena did for a full year, but... So, yeah, that was AEW 10/8/24, one of their better programs. Eye of the beholder, that's your prerogative. It was just very odd for both shows. Head to head, AEW had to pull out all the stops. They're out of their normal time slot and day. They titled this Titled Tuesday. I don't know if it ever felt like a Titled Tuesday, right? And for NXT, they just loaded it once again with main roster talents to the point where a lot of the times it didn't feel like NXT. Just felt like a WWE main event show, right? Not Saturday night's main event. Those are cool. Those are special. But remember main event? It would just air on like, I don't know. Was it on, maybe it's WWE.com? I don't know what it was. It was like an hour-long show that you could catch on like Saturday afternoons or something, I think. I'm just really glad I was able to catch both shows in their entirety, for the most part anyway, do my due diligence, the notes, and be able to talk both shows with you guys, man. It doesn't happen often. I'm not able to do that with a lot of business, usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays especially. But this was pretty cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Were captivated by this double review. Hopefully, you had your beverages and you sit back, max, relax while BC dropped the facts. And we're going to do it again until next time. There will be that next time. Next up is SmackDown, I believe. But there's going to be plenty of content beforehand. A lot of good discussion pieces that I want to actually put out to you guys. Some good discussions. Hopefully I can record those. So yeah, just subscribe, notified. You guys know the deal, man. Press all the things down below. And until that next time, there will be that next time. BC and the Amplified Unit saying check you. Salute!